Episode 653. I was reflecting on yesterday's video where I talk about tangible assets, and I thought it was a pretty powerful video. It might have even sparked some uh, feelings or thoughts. It might have been, I think it was thought provoking. That's a good word to use. I think it was thought provoking. And I watch, as I mentioned yesterday, I watch a lot of financial stuff, and it's amazing to me how these channels with thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of subscribers, most of them are absolutely broke, right? People who are watching videos on stocks that they don't own. Oh, that's pretty cool. Definitely worth cleaning. This one is worth a clean. I like that. That's probably, I'll take a picture of it also. That's probably uh, corrosion, but it's just in such a cool pattern coming off the corners, the edges of the building. I actually like it. I'll probably clean that one. And I guess it's because, as human beings, we're dreamers. You know, other animals dream also, like dogs. Other intelligent animals dream. Right? There's proof that monkeys, our ancestors or whatever you want to call them, they dream also. But we really dream. We dream in 3D and colors and very complicated dreams. Fantasies and all of that. And I guess there's a part of us that watches those videos because, we'd like to be a part of something that, people with money have. I mean, bottom line, right? That's, even though most people who watch them are broke, right? But if I had to really think about it, it doesn't make sense, right? Because it's really most likely for 99% of the viewers, that information, here's copper pain number one, is not useful information, right? I mean, if you have a 401k, right, you have no control. Money market, you have no control. Someone else is making the purchases for you. Maybe, which I doubt, right? Like everyone I know with a 401k, they have no idea what's in it. But I know that it's possible to, if you really get into it, you could tell them you want some, maybe you want tech or you want this. That's a nice copper penny, really beautiful one. Copper penny number two. But for the most part, it's all blind stuff. So you really don't need to know anything at work, at your job. You're just over broke, right? Job stands for just over broke. Really don't need to know anything about it. Someone else makes all those decisions. And the whole point of watching stock markets is really futile and a waste of time for the majority of people who watch those videos. And when I made a video like I did yesterday, it's to wake people up, right? Now you might say, yeah, we all know that sports cards 20 years ago to do you really know? I mean, I gave some awesome concrete examples of cards that I owned that are worth hundreds of X today that I sold like a dummy. I do have other stuff that I did not sell. And that's what saved my bacon, right? That's how I make my living, right? Going to selling those items. 2,000, no idea. That's how I got out of the rat race. Even though working for yourself, you'll work longer hours to be successful than you ever will for someone else, but it's the only way to um, get out of the rat race. Now, doesn't mean you have to. Some people make a great living working for somebody else, and they're perfectly happy, and their stock portfolios and all that. Okay, the upper middle class, the nurses, the doctors, the professionals, the plumbers, the electricians, campaign number 3. But if I had to think about what what I stand for as a YouTuber and a content creator, besides the fact that obviously I'm doing penny roll hunting, right? But as far as a message to get out to misaligned die on the reverse, it's an interesting one. Interesting little blisters there. Is campaign number 4 is that I'm the champion of the poor man. I can, if somebody who's younger is watching this and they're like, my son's 30, 92, he's going to be 33 this year, next month. And I tell him all the time, I say, Christian, hold on to your stuff, man. Like he basically, and his side hustle is to buy. He basically took after his old man. He buys and sells. Campaign number 5. He buys and sells TCG cards, which is Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, stuff like that. And he's tremendous at it, man. Like I keep telling him, I said, man, you should be a millionaire already. But he spends his money on discretionary things, so he's always broke, and he's always hustling to make that extra money he doesn't save for the future. And I said, if your plan is to wait for me to drop dead and get my collection, then I guess, if I make it to 80, ish, then when you're about 60, I guess you'll be okay, as long as I don't have to sell all my stuff for, medical reasons or anything like that, I said, that's not a that's not a great plan. I'm not even 60 yet, you know what I mean? And I hope for him to be to to wisen up and um start to think about his future. And again, like I said, he's extremely talented, more than most, in my in my opinion. And for all of you others out there, again, my hope is that you take my advice, and you're not going to buy stock, right? No one's going to take $20 a week and buy stock, but you could take $20 a week and maybe get really into a specific player in the NBA. A good example would be, is his name Amon Thompson? This kid is tremendous. Amon Thompson, Cade Cunningham. Who else? These are people with tremendous future potential. Um, They're getting a little expensive now, but you can still pick up some of their rookie cards raw. Um, Raw means ungraded. Serial numbered prisms for relatively inexpensive. Maybe you might have to save up a couple weeks to get one of them that's serial numbered. But those are the types of cards that if one of those two guys ever was to break out and win, and you have to look at it, right? Uh, you have to win your championship within the first like 8 years, 9 years, or you're pretty much a has been. You're kind of like not that Karl Malone was a has been, but he won his only championship. I think it was with the Lakers or with whatever team he was on at like his last couple years of playing. So people don't even really look at him as being a contributor. 2017 P. Maybe he was a contributor. I don't even know. And I'm super into this. It's like he's. It's not even consider anyway. So like Shaquille O'Neal, he was already playing for what? Yeah, I think it was his 8th year or his 9th year that he went to that he started. He won the three in a row with Kobe and with the Lakers. That made his whole. If Shaquille O'Neal never won a championship or he only won one, his cards would be worth probably half of what they are now, which is still a lot. People still see him as one of the most dominant um, basketball players ever, but it would have totally changed how people see him. It's only because, so anyway, so looking at that, like once, like if you look at Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, his rookie cards already are super duper expensive, but they weren't, a couple years ago. So he has his first championship young. He was the leader of the. It changes the whole narrative on him. It doesn't matter if he never wins again. He won one as a young person, as the leader of the team, and he's going to be considered. He's a surefire Hall of Famer, but it's already kind of his price is already high on his card. So if you get into him now and he never wins again, you know, the upside is much lower. It's a less risky investment, though, if you want to look at it that way. Amon Thompson and Cade Cunningham never won anything, and they might never. So it's a little bit more riskier, maybe. But for the price of $20 to $100, might be worth it. Or whoever else you might have um, a strong feeling about, or did a lot of research on. You looked at their team, you looked at their future draft picks, you look at their pedigree. Like there's a good chance, for example, like the Bucks, they might never win another championship again. You know, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's looking to split. Has a very negative mindset. They're in my mind, they're done. If they do win another one, it would be like a miracle. And personally, I wouldn't want to bet on a miracle. And a lot of his cards have went down since his last championship because of all this drama. So to me, he's not really a great bet. He's probably at his cap. I wouldn't be surprised if he never wins another championship unless he goes to another team and gets hooked up with two more superstars. I could see him never winning again. Same, like Kevin Durant, except Kevin Durant got a bunch of championships with Golden State Warriors. And he's a different story, and he's almost getting towards the end of his playing in the NBA period, his retirement. He's getting closer to he's much closer to his end than he is his prime. So I guess that's my only message to all of you is, whatever it is, if you would have got into, for example, if you would have got into silver, I'm gonna keep talking, but I'll put a penny up on the screen while I keep talking about this for another minute. Let me find a nice looking penny. That's a nice looking penny. That's the nicest penny we found today. If you would have got into silver 15 years ago, when I started buying silver coins, right, silver dollars, I probably have about not including the ones that I bought from my local coin shop. I probably have about 50 or 60 early silver dollars, Walking Liberties and the other ones from the 20s. And I remember it vividly. I would watch 1,000 auctions, and I would wait for them to end, and or I would put on 1,000 bids at a super low cheap just to win one coin. I'd spend hours and hours and hours a night putting hundreds and hundreds of bids at $15 free shipping. And that was 15 years ago. That was when eBay did not charge taxes and shipping was $1. Okay, so maybe I had a $1 shipping, and that would be with confirmation. And I would put hundreds of $15 bids on silver on silver $1 coins, and maybe I would win one. But I did that for like 2 or 3 years straight. And think about it: in 2 or 3 years, I only got about 50 or 60 coins, right? So that's not even one a week. There'll be some days and when I got none because they all went for $16 or $17. But those coins are now, if I show you what, the cheapest silver eagle you're gonna get, it's like $40, $50. Let's call it 3x. Is 3x super great for 15 years? Not really. Some of them are good dates. That I have to say. So some of them are probably worth $60, 50, 55, $60, the better dates and better conditioned. But let's say for average there, it's 3x for all those coins. That's not bad. That's a pretty good return on investment. Let's say I sell them when they're at 60. That's 4x. Right? I got my little calculator here. Let's do 50 times 60. 50 times 60. No, that's not it. It can't be correct. $50 times 60 is $3,000. Is that life altering money? No, but it's a nice little addition to. For a good example are these damn pennies. I mean, do I have thousands of pennies in flips right now? Nah, I got hundreds. I probably got about 300 pennies and 300 or 400 pennies in flips. Now maybe they're worth about $1. Some of them are worth. There's some of them that I found that are worth hundreds of dollars. I have to say that I've done videos on them. If you watch some of my earlier videos where I show these double dice, I found 30 of them in a row. Those are going to be, and they're in mint condition. They're probably MS65, MS66s. Those, if they grade MS66, they're probably $200, $300, $400 pennies each. So that I got very lucky on those. But when I'm saying it, you will get lucky here and there. Some things are safer bets, like the silver. This penny here, I'm going to put into my MS tube. And I might get 10 cents or 20 cents for it one day. By itself, it's nothing. But if I get 1,000 more of them, and they're worth 30 cents, what's that? $300. Okay, well that's pretty good. For I'm watching an auction right now. And I'll show it to you really quickly. And it's not something I'm not going to bid on it because I have tons of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of penny rolls. Let me go to my watch list. I'm watching. It's going to end in 4 hours. So the only people who are going to see this prior to this auction ending are my members who get to see my videos when I upload them. Everyone else has to wait until they're scheduled. So here, let me show you. I'm watching this because I find it super duper interesting. I'm wondering what it's going to sell for. It's going to sell for $40, $50. It's just a bunch of it says 59 to 82. 30 rolls. So they're already selling for $1 a piece. And I'm going to watch this, and I'm wondering what they're going to sell for. That's copper rolls. That's search through copper. Okay. And it's probably going to sell for, I'm going to say like $40, $45. So the person's going to make, I'll be honest with you, if it only sells for $45, they're going to make less than the price of copper, because copper is about 4 cents a penny right now. So each one of those rolls should sell for $2 just for copper value, which would be $60. So if it sells for under 60, the person actually lost money. But if it sells for 60, that's great, man. He made 4x on a bunch of on his coins. Again, is it mine? Is it life altering money? No. But if you make enough of these investments into tangible assets, the only thing that can mess you up with tangible assets is, God forbid, they get stolen, or God forbid you have a fire in your house. Those are the two things that keep me up at night, to be honest with you. I got cameras all over the place, different types of cameras. Me and my wife, we both watch them like hawks. And I got fire alarms and fire extinguishers all over the house. Um, anyway, but outside of that, you know, these are the types of things that I I really want to encourage people to get into. Um, you have to start thinking long term. You have to start thinking 10, 20, 30 years from now. And you know what? You could if you have a job and you got your 401k and your money market and all that, that's great. And upon retirement, that gives you a couple thousand a month on top of your Social Security of a couple thousand a month. Now imagine if you have two or three or 400,000 intangible assets that you could sell on eBay for another 1,000 or two a month. If you have, let me just do the calculate. If you got $300,000 worth of stuff, I mean, at the end, right? Which is not hard to get. I'm telling you, it's not hard to get. But let's do 300,000. Yeah, let me pause this. If you got $300,000 worth of stuff, which again, super easy over the course of 20 years. Just inflation will probably take it to that. Inflation will probably take $20,000 of correct tangible asset investments to 300,000 in 20 years, which 20,000 over the course of 10 years is what's that? That's 4,000 a year. Divide that by 12. It's a couple $100 a month. All right, but let's divide that by what do we say? Oh, how much it would be monthly? I want to do this math right. I want to divide it by 12. No. Oh, okay. I want to know what 2,000 a month would be. Divided by 2,000? No. I have to take off 3 zeros and then divide it by, no. Hold on a second. I got to do this math in my head, man. See, I'm not the brightest, the sharpest tool in this shit. Hold on. Okay, I was right. You do divide it by 2,000. Okay, so we divide 300,000 by 2,000. That's 150 months of $2,000 income. All right, and let's divide that. That's 150 months. And we divide that by 12. That's a year. 12.5 years of $2,000 a month. I know so many people who will never have Social Security of $2,000 a month. Okay? And it's just so easy to get to that point. So easy. Now, all right. So let's say you retire at 67. Let's say 70, just to make it okay, man. This takes you to 82. It might take you to the rest of your life. An extra $2,000 income on top of whatever you're making. Now, God forbid you're talking about 1.5 million. God forbid you're talking about something. Let's just do $1 million just for. All right, that's only about 3 times more than what we're looking at. Okay, $1 million. And let's divide that by 3,000 a month. That's 333 months. Forget, you're dead, man. You're dead by time. If you start selling this, let's divide that by 12. And that'll give us how many years? 27 years. Maybe you're not dead, man, but you're talking about $3,000 a month for the rest of your life. Basically, at 65, at 70. You know, it's almost taking you to a friggin' 100 years old. You could probably make this $4,000 a month. And if you got a $2,000, $1,500 Social Security, you're probably, you're in a much better situation. Anyway, this is what I'm the champion of. Okay. How can the poor person take their own financial future into their own hands? And I'm telling you, the only way you could do it is with stuff. These channels with invest in stocks and all that, man, that's fantasy stuff. That's for the one, definitely for the 5%. Okay, so I'm talking to the other 9% of America, of people in the world, because this is for any country. Anyway, I'll link the previous video here just in case you didn't see it. Episode, whatever that was, the previous episode, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless. Let me know what you think about my logic. This is how I see things. I base my whole life around this. So, and that's it. I'll hold on. I'm going to include you in on a little secret for this. If you're here after 27 minutes, then you've earned what I'm about to tell you. So, like I was saying, my whole life is based around this. And, I bought all these little coins and silver and fractional gold and sports cards and base Pokemon cards. And they don't make me rich right now. The economy's in the toilet, but it's enough for me to pay my bills and buy food and all that stuff, pay for my medical insurance. And the other day, I sold an item for $5,000. I purchased it for $350. 8 or 9 years ago, I purchased it for $350. I just sold it for $5,000, and that's what it's all about. That's that's like a kind of fortunate one. I got lucky with that one. And $350 10 years ago was a lot of cheese, man. But I said, it was such a great. I said, I'll try to get it, and I got it. I remember the day that I bid on it, and I recently sold it. And that's incredible. That's my bills for months, to be honest with you, by itself. And if you watch again yesterday's video, you're going to see where I showed stuff that I owned from 15 years ago that I sold to buy a house that would have been worth probably about 100 times more than that house. I sold it for 100 times more than it's worth right now, 10 years later, to be honest with you. And so that was a really, really big mistake. And because I didn't know then what I know now. And I would just want to share this information with you so that you could think about it at least and be like, okay, let me put something into something that, you might not care about a collection that's worth $2,000 or $3,000 20 years from now. But if it's worth $300,000 or $400,000 20 years from now, then you'll be glad you took my advice. All right, so that's what I got. Anyone who stood here for a half an hour, thank you. Please click like, subscribe, and all that stuff. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, check it out. Don't forget about tomorrow's video. and I'll see you in the next one.